because the name of the podcast is Partnership Track, I want to know more about the process of you becoming an equity partner at the firm you became an equity partner at. So what was the partnership process like? Is it that did you do an interview and then you became a partner? What is the process for becoming a partner?
Yeah, so the process is slightly different at different firms. For example, at one firm I've been at, they really cared about what your likelihood is of bringing in work in order to make you partner. Another firm didn't care about that at all. They only want to know that you're going to be able to keep yourself busy inside the firm billing hours. And so there's not a cookie cutter response. What I can tell you, though, is that this is a business. And it turns out if you get hired by people to be the lawyer, you're going to make partner. So keep that in mind. One of the biggest mistakes I made and I see constantly in big firms is associates come in and they're like, shit, I have to bill whatever, 2,000 hours. And they bill their 2,000 hours and they do great work. And they do that for 7, 8 years. And they never talk to anyone except the partners at the firm or the clients that they're interacting with. Well, they just missed 10 years of relationship building for clients. And that's how you get clients. It's all about relationships and trust. That's it. It's not about how good your brief is. It's not about, obviously you have to be a competent lawyer that provides good legal advice and service and be responsive and all that stuff. But there's lots of lawyers who do that and do that well, but they often don't talk to anyone. And so they don't have relationships with people who could hire them because they haven't talked to anybody in 7, 8 years. And what people miss is that when you're a third-year associate, a fourth-year associate, a second-year associate, of course you're not the person who's gonna get hired. But what happens is the relationships you have with other second years, third years, fourth years, the relationships you have in the community, everybody gets older and more senior. And it turns out some of your best clients are the ones that you just spent time with socially, the lawyers, while you were an associate. But the people who aren't doing that, who aren't being social, who aren't making a concerted effort to make relationships literally with anyone, lawyers, right? Lawyers are business people. Those people will often get to sixth year, seventh year associate, and then the firm will say, we need you to show that you can build a book of business, go get work. And then they turn around and they think that means going to a couple conferences. And then they're like, this didn't work. I don't know what I'm doing. And what the problem is they missed 6 to 8 years of relationship building that they could have done. Now, of course, you're busy and you got to build 2,000 hours and blah, 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 blah. But at the end of the day, just remember that your relationships with lawyers, young lawyers, older lawyers, other people, and how they think about you and whether they trust you and actually, think you're a good human is way more important than how good your brief is by the time you're in eighth year. So, and it's hard because at least in the US, the law schools don't tell you any of this. The law schools focus solely on making you the best associate you could be at a big law firm, the best writer. You have to be the number one legal mind in your law school to get a job. And that's kind of how the whole system is structured. But then you get out in the real world and it turns out that 90% of clients aren't going to read your brief before they hire you. They're not going to have any idea. I mean, of course, you got to have a good name in general and blah, blah, blah. But it's so much more about relationships and people than it is about the quality of legal work. And that's the thing that people miss as young associates. And again, I'm not saying a third-year associate, you need to go hang out with a bunch of general counsels. Obviously, you should if you can make relationships. But the other third-year associates or fourth-year associates at other firms or your firm, everybody gets older, they go to different places. And so, one of my first clients ever, I was a senior associate at Foley. And it was a former colleague of mine from a prior law firm when we were associates together, and he was now in-house. And of course, he called me because we're friends and I know him and he knew I wasn't going to screw him over. And so that happened. And that's when I sort of learned that, oh, I never even thought of him as a lead, right? Or that I could get work. He was just a friend of mine that I'd known for a long time. And so that's what I mean. Like the people who fail at becoming partners or at becoming successful partners are usually the ones who are introverted and just want to do legal work in their office and go home and never talk to anybody. And that, to be clear, there are places for those people as partners in law firms. It's just they're service partners usually. It's harder to make partner as a service partner, and it's usually going to pay you less over your whole career as a partner. But you still make really good money and have a good lifestyle, and there's nothing wrong with that. And there's lots of service partners who just hate being social or don't want to deal with it, and they just want to make a good salary and do their legal work, which again is fine. But that pathway is much harder to make partner. You have to really be an amazing lawyer and be able to distinguish yourself and attract work inside of a big law firm. So there's multiple paths, but the more relationships you have with the more people and the more you help people, the better your entire career will be. And so I tell people to spam people for jobs, but honestly, you should keep spamming people your whole life. You should try to have 3 to 4 Zoom meetings a week with new people every week, which
Yeah.
sounds like a lot, but is like an hour and a half to 2 hours of your time. So